And then late tonight, some of these storms could be moving through the big cities. So, Kendall, when we look at the threats here and we're timing it out, not all that impressive up until about 5 or 6 o'clock.
Right. Yeah. And so that's where we want to pause this and just show folks what's going on. So we were mentioning the fact that there is a little bit of a cap in place so far today, and that's going to begin to erode. And that just essentially is going to allow for these storms to be able to sufficiently organize. And so notice, as we're watching, there will be kind of some storms out ahead of the main line, but really it's that squall line as they congeal. And we'll have a little bit of bowing taking place, maybe even some strong gusty winds associated with it. But it's the hail concern that we're concerned with just because of the cool temperatures in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So we're watching that. But guess what? We also have that potential that we could have a few tornadoes today. So some rotating supercells, that's going to be an issue. And when we think back to what just happened as we wrapped up the month of February, this part of the country just doesn't need to see it again, unfortunately. I mean, look at all of the severe weather that we had, numerous reports of tornadoes, also large hail, damaging winds, and here's the threat for today. So right over some of the exact same areas that are still cleaning up, quite frankly.
Yeah, even the video that we were looking at, I believe that was in close to Peoria. I mean, we had storms on the 27th, and then on the 28th, the bottom just dropped out. Right. Temperatures plummeted. We had a little bit of snow, and you had those scenes of damage with snow that was falling. Cold air filled in, but it wasn't. Yeah, there's some of the flakes that you see with that barn, which was damaged. But it doesn't last long, Kendall.
It doesn't.
Look at today's high in Chicago, 70 degrees. Yesterday, Minneapolis had their earliest 70-degree day. It was 71 on record. Beat the old by about 2 days or so. So the warmth returns quickly, and that makes sense given the type of winter we've had through the Great Lakes. I mean, the lakes are unfrozen, so severe weather season arguably starting a little early for them. Yeah,
and so that area of low pressure, as it's tracking its way through the region, we've got that warm front also lifting north, so it's allowing, again, those temperatures to just soar. And we're talking about a lot of areas that are going to be running well above average. I mean, 20 to as much as 35 degrees above average in some spots. That's remarkable. Noticeable. And that is going to help fuel these storms that do develop. And so the timing, it's going to be later on tonight. So after sunset, and then last into the overnight hours, and then eventually we'll start to clear things back out come Tuesday and into Wednesday. Finally see the sun return, Stephen, on Wednesday. But notice the temperature difference between today to Wednesday, and even Tuesday.
It's dramatic. I guess not as much drama as we saw at the end of February, though, right? We had those single digits in some spots for the upper Midwest, but still that drop in temperature. This one is more expansive, too, and keep in mind, we called it a weak front. I mean, we could still see the storms generate, and they could turn severe. So Louisiana up into Arkansas, we got to be on the lookout. We have this zone that we're watching today, but it really is going to ramp up on Tuesday. So tomorrow is when we'll watch for some of these storms. Along the Gulf Coast is where we're going to have to pay closest attention, right along Interstate 10, let's say from Houston, points east into New Orleans. As we're looking live there this morning, they had some fog this morning. That's since dissipated, but look at all of the rain that we could see. This will be Tuesday morning, and a lot of times we see it often. What's featured as a severe weather day is sometimes overshadowed by this flooding risk, and we got a level 2 threat, so we got to watch out for that too tomorrow.
Yeah, these storms are going to be very heavy rainmakers, so could potentially be dumping 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour. And then you think about what that is going to do over the course of a short period of time. That's going to add up to potentially some areas picking up 3 to as much as 5 inches all the way through Wednesday. So you have to get prepared for that. I was just looking at our latest drought monitor. And yes, Stephen, some areas are slightly dry, but nothing major. But it's just the fact that, again, it's been some time since we've been talking about this impressive of kind of rain totals. And it's going to be, unfortunately, impacting areas that could be more susceptible than others to rounds of flash flooding.
And the fact that you can say not all that bad in Louisiana, because it was very bad in the summer with the drought. So we've seen those improvements. This system moves east, and as we head into Wednesday, we focus in on the Florida Peninsula. I think the Panhandle, we're going to see rain. I mean, widespread rain for the Gulf Coast, but the focus is where the storms could be the worst, where they could be the strongest. So we continue with this level 1 threat. Again, it's a lower end threat, but as we work into the month of March and severe weather season really ramps up, we got to highlight these areas. And by Wednesday, we're still going to deal with them. Orlando could see early Wednesday some showers move through. You get that south wind, and then you wait for the storms to roll on through. Maybe in the afternoon on Wednesday is when we could see it. But then as that exit stage right, we have to go back west and look at Thursday and Friday, because guess what? The severe threat, it just re-racks.
Yeah, so we'll have a trough that's diving out of the southwest into the southern plains. That's going to be bringing with it rounds of severe weather, especially Thursday night into Friday. Now, we're concerned with large hail and damaging winds, but there is the potential, especially come Friday, that we could see more rotating supercells. These storms could be more surface-based. That could allow for the potential that we could have some tornadoes. So you have to be on guard for that. This is the time of the year, Stephen, that this part of the country does typically deal with severe weather. It's been unusual that we haven't really seen that kind of pan out the past few events, but I think this is going to be coming kind of right on cue. And then again, there's also the potential we could be dealing with a flash flooding threat. So we've got it all, and it lasts even into the weekend.
It does, and a lot of real estate involved with that severe weather risk. So something to watch each and every day this work week. I'll tell you, though, where we could use a soaking, and it's the southern plains, and perhaps we get in on it late this week. The Smokehouse Creek fire in Texas and Oklahoma continues to burn. The sprawling fire, it's consumed more than 1 million acres in the Lone Star State alone. In the Panhandle, of all places. I mean, containment has improved to about 15%, and that was despite the critical dangers that firefighters had over the weekend. But speaking of those fire dangers, we did have a new fire start. It's been called the Roughneck Fire, and it's threatening the town of Fritch in Hutchinson County. The small town of Fritch already suffered some losses. Numerous structures burned to the ground last week, and that was as the Smokehouse Creek fire grew. And that name, the Smokehouse Creek fire, will be reminded, or will sort of ring a bell for a lot of folks living in the Panhandle, because it is now the state's largest fire on record. The Roughneck right now is at about 300 acres, and it's 25% contained. So those are the big details. Let's bring in Fox News senior correspondent Casey Stiegel in Dallas, where the weather and temperatures have been on the warmer side. It's another day of battling these conditions too, Casey. Remain at an elevated risk for the spread of fires.
Yes, Stephen, but fortunately, it appears that the temperatures are going to be going down a little bit this week, and also the weather patterns in terms of the wind will be shifting, and they could sure use a break. Firefighters were hoping that a new week would bring new weather patterns to the region to help them get a better upper hand on those fires that have been burning, because over the weekend, as you said, gusty winds and high temperatures made it very, very difficult for crews to contain these blazes. According to the Texas A&M Forest Service, the winds started a 6th fire over the weekend, known as the Roughneck Fire, as you were saying, which is now 25% contained and has burned some 300 acres. The largest in state history continues to burn, the Smokehouse Creek Fire, which has scorched over 1 million acres and is 15% contained at this hour.
Oh my God.